Welcome to Reddit Confessions.
You ever get a message that burns through your chest like battery acid? One that doesn't shout, just simmers in your gut, quiet and cruel? That's how it started for me. 7 words. We are pregnant. That's all she wrote. But the silence that followed? That told me everything I needed to know. It was a Tuesday morning. Mid-shift. The warehouse was slow. The kind of slow that gives your thoughts too much room to stretch their legs and wander where they shouldn't. I was at my workstation, checking an inbound delivery schedule, when my phone buzzed. I glanced down. Her name lit up the screen. Kara. I hadn't heard from her in 2 weeks. Not since the fight. Not since the night I packed my stuff and walked out of that apartment with just a duffel and a box of dishes. We weren't married, but 5 years is 5 years. You build a life with someone that long. It feels like marriage, minus the paperwork. Anyway, I swiped the message open, expecting maybe an apology. Maybe some guilt finally catching up with her. What I got instead? We are pregnant. That's it. No emoji. No follow-up. Just those 3 words and a little blue bubble hovering above my cracked screen like a depth charge. I didn't react right away. Didn't throw my phone or storm out. I just stared at it. Let it sink in. Let it calcify. Because it wasn't the news itself that broke something in me. It was the way she told me. We. That word stuck out like a nail in the floorboard. Not, I'm pregnant. Not, I have something to tell you. Not even, I think it might be yours. Just, we. I looked up and around. My buddy Daniel was on the other side of the floor, rearranging pallets. Normal day, normal life, normal noise. But everything inside me had turned to static. Later that night, sitting in my 1-bedroom rental, I did what every man under pressure eventually does. I started digging. Her Instagram was private, but her best friend Jesse's wasn't. I don't even know what I was looking for. Proof? Hope. But I found it all right. And not what I hoped for. Jesse had posted a photo 3 hours earlier. A baby shower announcement. But not for me. Not for us. For Kara and someone named Tyler. There they were, hands interlocked over her belly, smiling like they were fresh out of a catalog. The caption said it all. So excited for these two. Kara and Tyler are going to be the best parents. Love wins red heart #blessed #Babionthaway. I remember reading that sentence 3 times. Then once more, just to be sure I hadn't misunderstood. Tyler. A guy I'd never heard of. A name she never once mentioned in all those years. A stranger who was now apparently part of a we. I didn't rage. Didn't cry. I sat in silence. I'd never felt so replaceable. Like a job opening someone filled before HR even posted the position. But then, something in me clicked. Not anger. Clarity. I picked up my phone and typed one simple reply. Who exactly is we? I didn't send anything else. I didn't argue. Didn't accuse. I just let that message sit there like a mirror, one she'd have to look into. The next day, I woke up early. Earlier than usual, actually. I brewed coffee, shaved, put on a clean shirt. Then I drove to the store and bought a gift basket. The fancy kind with the bow and everything. Baby lotion, tiny socks, a teething ring, a plush giraffe. I included a card. Congratulations on your new responsibility. May you both find exactly what you deserve. I signed it. With sincere clarity, the other guy. Then I shipped it express to the address listed on Tyler's business page, some trendy media startup downtown. I didn't think it'd go viral. That was never the plan. But I guess the receptionist who received the basket thought it was too good not to share. She posted a photo of it online. It got picked up by one of those Instagram drama accounts. Then Reddit. Then YouTube. By the end of the week, the internet had decided I was either a savage or a saint, depending on who you asked. But none of that mattered to me. Because by then, I was already looking at everything differently. Not just Kara, or the betrayal, or the lies, but myself. Who I was. What I tolerated. And what came next. And believe me, a lot came next. It's funny how people online root for you, until you remind them you're a real person. They wanted me to be either a victim or a villain. But I wasn't interested in being either. I wasn't performing for anyone. I was just a man cleaning up the wreckage of a life someone else set on fire. I stayed off social media after that. Not out of shame, just self-preservation. The buzz around the gift basket hit a fever pitch within 48 hours. I'd see headlines like Savage X sends ultimate clapback or Internet hero humiliates cheating fiancé. Some influencers tried to DM me. One even asked if I wanted to come on a podcast. I didn't answer any of them. Because while the world laughed or applauded or argued about what I did, I was sitting in a plastic chair at my buddy Logan's garage, sipping black coffee and wondering how I'd missed the signs. She was cheating for how long? Logan asked, wiping grease off his hands. I don't know. Long enough to be pregnant by someone else and start calling him we. He let out a low whistle. And you're just calm? Would it help if I wasn't? Logan shook his head. Guess not. I didn't explain to him that it wasn't calm. It was emptiness. Kara and I were together for 5 years. That kind of bond doesn't snap overnight. It corrodes. Silently. Like rust behind paint. You don't notice until the frame collapses. The first real conversation came 3 days after the basket hit the internet. Kara called. I almost didn't answer. But some things you face head on. I stepped outside, leaned against the cold railing of my apartment balcony, and picked up. She didn't waste time. What the hell was that? She snapped. Which part? I asked. The gift. The message. The whole performance. You mean the truth? It wasn't your place. I laughed. Quiet. Bitter. Wasn't my place to acknowledge the child you're having with someone else while still texting me like I'm part of the story? There was silence on the other end. The kind that says she knows she can't lie her way out. Not this time. I didn't plan it this way, she said eventually. You didn't plan anything. You just moved on before you left. I could hear her breathing. Rapid. Defensive. But no denial. You told Jessie? She hesitated. I saw her post, I said. Congratulations, by the way. That wasn't supposed to happen. She jumped the gun. Hard to jump the gun when it was never loaded in the first place. Don't get poetic, Liam. Ah, there it was. That edge in her voice. The one I'd ignored for years. Like everything that made me who I was just a charming inconvenience. We could have handled this privately, she added. You had a private life. One you built without me. She didn't respond. And for a moment, I felt it. The old impulse to protect her, to cushion the fall. But I'd done enough of that. You didn't even try to lie, I said quietly. Just, we are pregnant. Like I'd get the hint and walk away politely. That's not fair. No, Kara. It's not. But it's done. That night, I deleted her number. Not out of spite. Just clarity. When a chapter ends, you don't tear out the page. You turn it and keep going. But that didn't mean the question stopped. How long had it been going on? Who else knew? Was I just a placeholder until something better came along? Those weren't questions for her. Not anymore. I knew I wouldn't get answers I could trust. But maybe I could get them for myself. So I started retracing our steps. I went back through old photos. Old emails. Conversations. Patterns emerged. Business trips that didn't line up. Gym memberships that started and stopped for no reason. Late-night meetings at firms that never existed. The signs were there. I just didn't want to see them. I remembered one night, 8 months ago, when we'd gone out to dinner for her birthday. She'd been distracted the whole night, checking her phone, laughing at something she wouldn't explain. When I asked what was so funny, she smiled and said, just Jessie being Jessie. Except now I know, it wasn't Jessie. It was Tyler. That was the first moment I remembered feeling alone while sitting across from the woman I thought I'd marry. Next, I called James, my older brother. He answered on the second ring. Liam. Yeah. Got a minute? Always. We hadn't spoken in a few months. Not because of anything bad, just life. Kids, work, time zones. You heard about the basket? He chuckled. Heard? Lisa showed it to me like it was a scene from a revenge flick. You okay? I don't know yet. That's honest. I respect that. We talked for an hour. About betrayal. About letting go. About the quiet part of heartbreak nobody posts about. You didn't lose her, James said finally. You lost the version of her you thought existed. Isn't that the same thing? No. One is real. The other's a ghost. Grieve the ghost. Then move on. I wrote those words down after we hung up. That weekend, I drove out to the cabin where Kara and I had spent our second anniversary. I didn't tell anyone. Just packed a bag, filled the tank, and drove until the city disappeared behind me. The place was empty. Quiet. Still smelled like pine and old memories. I sat on the porch that night, under a sky full of stars, and let myself feel the weight of it all. Not just her betrayal, but mine too. I'd betrayed myself. By tolerating silence instead of speaking up. By mistaking routine for intimacy. By ignoring the parts of me that were starving, just to keep her fed. I don't blame her for falling out of love. I blame her for pretending she didn't. And I blame myself for believing she was pretending at all. They say truth sets you free. But the truth didn't feel like freedom, not yet. It felt like standing in the ruins of a house you built with your own hands, trying to figure out which part of you left the front door unlocked. Monday morning came with routine. Coffee, cold eggs, emails. But something had shifted. I wasn't checking my phone for her texts anymore. Wasn't hoping for an apology. What I wanted now, more than anything, was the full story. I didn't care if it made me feel better. I just wanted it to be complete. I wanted to know when she started lying. I wanted to know if Tyler knew she had a fiancé when it began. And I wanted to know if this whole thing had been building while I was still buying groceries, still kissing her goodnight, still paying half the rent on a future that apparently never existed. So I started where every truth leaves fingerprints: money. I still had access to our shared financial records. The lease was in both our names. The bank account we used for bills hadn't been closed yet. And what I found there, it told a different story than the one she tried to sell. Between January and April, there were 10 separate charges to a boutique hotel across town. Not once. Not on a birthday or an anniversary. Regular intervals: Wednesdays, Fridays. Midday, $143. 70, $188. 20, $129. 00, always the same hotel. Always booked for just a few hours. And always, the same card, hers. At first, I thought maybe Tyler was some stranger she met online. But the more I looked, the more I saw that he wasn't new. His name was on Venmo, too. Tips for lunches. Payments tagged with little inside jokes. One red, for the sin smiling face with horns. They didn't even bother hiding it. One message from her to him. Public, but buried in a sea of others. Red. Today was perfect. I love the way you take care of me. It was dated 2 weeks before she asked me to look at engagement rings. I didn't feel rage. I felt stupid. Like I'd been walking around with my eyes closed while everyone else was watching the play unfold in front of me. So I called someone who might know more. Jessie, her best friend. She didn't pick up the first time. Or the second. But the third time, she answered. Cautious. Wary. Liam. Jessie, I need 5 minutes. That's all. Long pause. Okay. We met at a diner on Route 12, halfway between my place and hers. She wore sunglasses, even inside, and stirred her coffee like it had wronged her. I didn't know it was you, she said. When I posted the picture. I don't know. I thought she'd already told you. She hadn't. Another long pause. You were always good to her, she said softly. Not good enough, apparently. No, you were too good. That was the problem. I leaned back, arms folded. What does that mean? Jessie sighed. Kara, she likes attention. She likes being wanted. And she told me once. And I swear, I didn't get it at the time. That with you. She felt secure but invisible. Like everything worked, but nothing thrilled her. She say that before or after she started cheating? Jessie winced. After, she admitted. But barely. I nodded. Did she ever say how long it had been going on? 6 months, Jessie said, looking down. Give or take. And Tyler? Who is he really? Used to be a coworker. Marketing firm. Transferred out of state, then came back. They reconnected. Drinks became dinners. You know the rest. I didn't know the rest. But I knew enough. Why tell me this now? I asked. Jessie's voice dropped. Because I saw your face in that photo. The one from the gift basket post. You looked hollow. Like someone had carved you out. She took off her sunglasses. You didn't deserve this, Liam. And I didn't have the spine to say anything when it mattered. I'm sorry. I nodded. It wasn't forgiveness. But it was acknowledgement. Before I left, she handed me a slip of paper. Her handwriting. 2 names. 2 dates. What's this? For myself. Just in case. I stared at the paper. Just in case what? But I didn't ask. Because I already knew. Later that night, I pulled up my laptop and began a new file. Not a diary. Not a rant. Just facts. Kara and Tyler. Timeline. Dates. Receipts. Texts. Photos. Witnesses. Not because I was planning to use it, but because if this ever came back around, if child support or court or anything involving paternity came knocking, I wanted to be ready. The past had blindsided me once. It wouldn't again. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because of the betrayal, but because of something else, relief. Not full. Not comfortable. but the first quiet breath I'd taken in weeks. I wasn't hers anymore. She wasn't mine. And what was broken between us didn't need to be fixed. It needed to stay broken, so I could rebuild something else entirely. There's a moment, somewhere between heartbreak and healing, where your breath evens out and the silence starts to sound less like punishment and more like peace. That's where I was now. Not okay, but not drowning either. It had been nearly 2 weeks since Kara's text, the one that ended with, "We are pregnant." 2 weeks since the basket made its rounds online. Since people started calling me things like icon, king, legend. Strangers turned my pain into punchlines, memes, tweets with laughing emojis. But pain isn't funny when you're the one living in it. And I wasn't trying to be anyone's hero. I was just a man who'd had enough and decided to respond like someone who finally understood the truth. You don't set fire to what you plan to return to. Work had become quieter. Most people at the warehouse knew. Some tried to avoid it entirely. "Hey man, I don't want to pry," but while others treated it like gossip with a face. I didn't blame them. Scandal always draws eyes. But I didn't indulge it. Instead, I got to work early. Left late. Took overtime when I could. There's something sacred about sweat when your world's gone sideways. It's proof you're still here. Still moving. One morning, my supervisor, Greg, caught me near the loading dock. "You doing okay, Liam?" I nodded. "Better than before." "Need anything?" I hesitated. Then, "Yeah, I need a raise." Greg blinked, then laughed. "You've got balls." Apparently, that's what got me into trouble. He chuckled again, slapped my shoulder. "Let's talk next quarter. But keep doing what you're doing." Fair enough. I spent that weekend gutting my apartment. Not out of anger, but intention. I took down every photo of us. Boxed up the art we bought on that trip to Savannah. Donated the throw pillows she insisted on. Threw away the coffee mugs we used to share on slow Sunday mornings. The bed stayed. The table too. But everything else? Gone or packed away. I left only what I needed. Space. Air. Silence. You don't heal in the echo of someone else's voice. That night, I sat on the floor with a bottle of Jameson and called my mother. She'd been quiet about the whole thing. Supportive, but careful not to step where I hadn't invited her. She picked up on the second ring. "Hey, sweetheart." "Hey. You okay?" "Not really, but I'm getting there." She paused. "That's all I can ask for." We didn't talk about Kara. Not directly. Instead, we talked about the house I grew up in. The time I broke my arm jumping off the shed. The way Dad used to leave notes in my lunchbox when I had a test. Then she said something I'll never forget. "Don't let this teach you not to love, Liam. Let it teach you how to recognize someone who doesn't." I didn't respond right away. My throat closed around the words. Eventually, I said, "I just want to feel like myself again." "You will, but you won't be the same." She was right. The next week, I joined a gym. The same one I'd put off for 2 years. Signed up. Showed up. Didn't try to impress anyone. Just worked. Sweated out whatever was left of the anger. Pain in the muscles is better than pain in the chest. Because at least that kind heals. I saw Tyler once. At a coffee shop. 2 blocks from the office where he worked. The same address I'd shipped the gift basket to. He didn't see me. But I saw him. Polished. Confident. The kind of guy who thought he was the main character. He was laughing with 2 coworkers, phone in hand. I imagined what he saw when that basket showed up. Whether he laughed, or panicked, or played it cool. It didn't matter. Because now, I didn't want to hurt him. I just wanted distance. And I had it. I started writing again. Nothing fancy. Just a notebook beside the bed. A place to put things down so I didn't carry them to sleep. One entry read, "She broke me in slow motion. Not with cruelty, but with silence." That's the kind of betrayal that hurts worst. The kind that pretends to love you while quietly leaving. Another, "I missed the version of me that didn't second-guess everything." But maybe that guy needed to go. About a month after the gift basket went viral, a reporter reached out. She wanted to do a piece. Said it would be tasteful, human, and empathetic. I declined. This wasn't a story for clickbait. This was my life. Not a headline. Not a meme. Still, the emails came. DMs too. Other men. Some women. People who'd been cheated on. Lied to. Replaced. They wrote to thank me. One man said, "Your story made me feel less alone." Another woman wrote, "My husband cheated, and I blame myself. But your calm, your strength, it reminded me I can survive this." I didn't respond to most, but I read every word. Because they weren't writing to me. Not really. They were writing to themselves. trying to believe that survival was possible, that dignity was still an option. It is. People think betrayal is loud, fights, screaming, slamming doors. But sometimes it's silent. Sometimes it's a slow erosion of who you are, made worse by the people who say nothing while you disappear. By now, the story had cooled online. The jokes stopped trending. The tweets faded. People moved on, as they do. But my life didn't. I was still waking up in a half-empty apartment, still pouring 2 cups of coffee out of habit before realizing I was the only one there. Still reaching for someone in the dark, only to find cold sheets. I didn't miss Kara. Not really. I missed the idea of someone. The presence of love. The rhythm of companionship. Even if it was a lie, I started noticing the silence from certain people. Mutual friends who used to invite us out. Now nothing. Group chats that I was once a part of, now quiet or gone. Turns out when a relationship breaks, some people treat it like a divorce and pick sides. Others don't pick at all. They just drift. Logan, the guy who offered me beer in silence that first night, he stayed. So did my brother James. But others? Quiet. I saw Rachel, a mutual friend, at the grocery store. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. Tried to smile. Failed. We talked briefly. She mentioned Kara, how it's complicated, and how people change. Then she said the one thing that stuck with me for days. I hope you're not bitter, Liam. That kind of energy sticks. I smiled. Nodded. But inside, I wanted to ask her where she was when the knife went in. Funny how some people are so worried about bitterness, as if betrayal were a choice and not a wound. I got a letter 2 days later. An actual letter. Envelope. Stamp. My name in clean, familiar handwriting. It was from Kara's mom. We hadn't spoken since the breakup. She used to call me her other son. Always said she was glad Kara ended up with a man who didn't play games. The letter was short. Just 1 page. I'm sorry for what happened. I don't know what my daughter was thinking. And maybe that's not mine to understand anymore. But I want you to know, you were loved here. You still are. I read that last sentence twice, then folded it neatly and put it in the drawer where I kept old photographs I hadn't yet decided to burn. Around this time, I got another message. From Kara. She'd been silent since our last call. But this one came late, just after midnight. A single line. Can we talk? I stared at it for a long time. Did she want forgiveness? Closure? A confession? Or maybe, and this is what sat hardest with me, maybe she just wanted to feel clean again by offloading the guilt. I didn't respond. Not out of cruelty, but because I had nothing left to give her. Some bridges don't need burning. They collapse on their own under the weight of repeated steps in the wrong direction. I spent more time with Evan, my coworker. He'd been through a divorce a few years ago. Said betrayal doesn't harden you. It just sharpens what you already were. If you were soft, you'll break. If you were stone, you'll crack. But if you were steel, you get forged. I asked him when it started to feel better. He said, the day I stopped trying to win the breakup. So I made a decision. I changed my number. Wiped old contacts. Started fresh. The only people who got the new one were the ones who'd shown up after the storm hit, not just when the sky was clear. Kara didn't get it. Neither did anyone who played neutral. Not out of spite, but peace. When a house floods, you don't salvage moldy carpet just because it used to be soft. One evening, I ran into Tyler. Again. This time, it wasn't accidental. It was at a bar downtown. I didn't plan it, but I didn't avoid it either. He saw me, hesitated, then walked over. Hey. I sipped my drink. Hey. You're Liam. You're Tyler. He looked awkward. Tried to play calm. But I saw it. The nerves in his jaw. The weight in his posture. I didn't know she was still engaged, he said. Doesn't matter now. He nodded. You sent that basket. I did. He paused. That was cold. No, I said. It was measured. Silence stretched between us. Then he said something unexpected. You're handling this a lot better than I would have. I finished my drink. That's the difference between you and me, I said. I don't burn people just because they stop being useful. He blinked, like he hadn't expected it to sting. Then he walked away. Good. By the end of that month, I'd cleaned my apartment down to the bones. Thrown out everything I didn't recognize as mine. It didn't feel like a bachelor pad. It felt like neutral ground, a place waiting for something new to grow. Not another woman. Not yet. Just me. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough. You don't always need revenge. Sometimes the best outcome is the look on someone's face when they realize you're doing just fine without them. That's the weight you stop carrying. the one that was never yours to bear. I started volunteering on Saturdays. Local nonprofit. Rebuilding homes for veterans. Not because I wanted a gold star or a good guy badge, just because I needed to use my hands. I needed to build again, even if it wasn't for me. There's something sacred about rebuilding something that matters. Something real. One of the older guys there, Jim, a retired Marine, had a way of seeing through people. "You lost someone recently?" he asked over lunch one day. Sort of. He nodded slowly, like he knew exactly what that meant. Good. Keep swinging a hammer. Quiet work heals loud wounds. That stuck with me. At home, I kept a photo on my nightstand. Not of Kara. Never again. Just one of me and my dad. Fishing trip. 1997. I was 11. Holding up a fish too small to keep, but smiling like I'd just won a trophy. My dad had written something on the back in fading ink. Sometimes it's not about the size of the win, just that you stayed out there long enough to get one. It hit different now. A friend of mine, Serena, invited me to dinner. Nothing romantic. Not yet, but a quiet kindness I hadn't realized I missed. She was a friend from college. We hadn't talked in years. Then one day, she messaged me out of nowhere. "Hey, I saw the thing online. If you ever want a drink and normal conversation, hit me up." I did. The first night we met, I was nervous. Not because of her, but because I realized how long it had been since I felt safe around someone new. She didn't ask for the whole story. Just let me talk, if I wanted. So I did. And she listened. Without trying to fix me. Without comparing pain. Without weaponizing empathy. Just listened. That was more intimate than anything Kara had done in the last year of our relationship. 2 months out, I was sleeping again. Not every night. Not perfectly. But sleep that felt earned, not escaped into. I stopped checking her social media. Not because I stopped caring, but because I stopped needing to care. That's a different kind of freedom. One morning, I got an envelope. Certified mail. Inside, a legal notice. Paternity test request. I sat down hard, the paper crinkling in my hand. There it was. The other shoe. Turns out, even "we are pregnant" comes with a question mark sometimes. I didn't panic. Didn't rage. I called my lawyer. Straightforward guy. Local. Doesn't waste words. He read through the letter. Looked up. "She's not sure who the father is." I said nothing. "She's trying to cover her bases." What do I do? You take the test. You be calm. You keep records. Simple. Clean. So I did. Swabbed. Signed. Submitted. And waited. The results came in 2 weeks later. 0% probability. I wasn't the father. Didn't feel like a win. Didn't feel like anything, really. Just confirmation. Confirmation that I had been excluded long before she ever told me. She didn't want a future with me. She just wanted a parachute in case the one she chose didn't open. I went for a long drive that night. No destination. Just back roads and music and miles. And somewhere along mile 87, it hit me. Not a revelation, but a relief. It's over. Not just the relationship. Not just the betrayal. The part of me that kept holding on to some invisible thread, hoping for an apology, an explanation, a reason. That part finally let go. I didn't text her. Didn't send a copy of the results. Didn't gloat. Just closed the file. Threw it in a drawer. And opened a blank one instead. You don't need revenge when peace walks beside you. You don't need closure when you're not the one who left the door open. Healing doesn't always look like joy. Sometimes it looks like not checking your phone for pain. Spring came quietly. The weather changed. The lights shifted. So did I. I started running again. Not fast, not far, but enough to feel my lungs work the way they used to before the weight of betrayal sat on my chest. There's a strange satisfaction in feeling tired for the right reasons. I passed by Kara's old yoga studio once. On purpose. Not to see her. Just to see how I'd feel seeing the building. Nothing happened. No anger. No spiral. Just a building. Brick and glass. Exit signs and fake plants. It's incredible how quickly the sacred becomes irrelevant. I kept writing. The notebook by the bed filled up. Then a second one. Then a file on my laptop. Some of it was letters I never sent. Some were memories I'd reprocessed through a colder lens, seeing clearly now what I missed when I was 2 and loved to notice. One entry read, "She said she wanted to grow." What she meant was she wanted to leave without looking like the villain. Another, "Loyalty doesn't matter to people who mistake it for weakness." I wasn't angry when I wrote those things. I was simply cataloging the truth. Serena and I kept talking. Dinners turned into hikes. Hikes turned into late-night drives. Still no expectations. Still no labels. But one night, she asked, "Do you think you'll ever trust again?" I was honest. "I don't know. But I don't think that's the right question." She tilted her head. "What is? Do I want to?" Silence. Then she said something I'll never forget. "Maybe trust isn't about them. Maybe it's about you deciding to stop bleeding for people who never learned how to hold a heart." We sat quietly after that. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel alone. Kara emailed me a month later. Just a few lines. "I got the results. Thank you for handling it with grace. I know I don't deserve it. I hope you're doing well." I didn't respond. Not out of cruelty, but because there was nothing left to say. She'd made her choices. I made mine. Mine didn't include her. One Saturday, Logan helped me repaint my apartment. We chose a color called driftwood gray. Neutral. Clean. The kind of tone that doesn't scream for attention but stays with you. While we worked, he asked, "You think you're over her?" I thought for a while, then said, "I think I'm over needing her to explain why she stopped loving me." He nodded. "That's good." And it was. That night, I stood in my newly painted kitchen, staring at the walls. Same space. Different life. I made a list, not of goals, not of tasks, but of truths. I was faithful. I was blindsided. I didn't lose her. She left herself. I don't need revenge. I just need today. That list went on my fridge, right next to the receipt from the gym, the volunteer schedule, a photo of me fishing with Dad. No wedding photos. No shadows. I thought about posting again. Not for likes. Not for validation. Just a photo. A quiet one. Me, coffee mug in hand, standing on the balcony at sunrise. Caption: "Peace looks like this." But I didn't post it. Because peace doesn't need proof. The funny thing about healing is it never makes noise. It doesn't come with a soundtrack or a moment of clarity. It comes in routines. In small wins. In learning how to exist again without flinching at the past. By May, I barely thought about Kara. Not because she didn't matter. She did. But she was no longer present. Not in the mornings, not in the empty space beside me in bed, not in the life I was building now. And that life? It wasn't loud or flashy, but it was mine. Work stabilized. My hours shifted slightly. I got offered a promotion, floor lead. Not management, but something. Greg pulled me aside one day and said, "You handled your business like a man. Thought you should know that didn't go unnoticed." I thanked him, not because I needed the praise, but because some part of me was still learning how to believe it. I adopted a dog. Her name's Scout. A mutt, shepherd mix, maybe. Rescued from a shelter upstate. The paperwork said she'd been surrendered by a couple who couldn't make time. She was skittish at first. Jumped at loud noises. Didn't trust easily. We had that in common. But she learned. Slowly. And so did I. One Sunday morning, I took Scout hiking. We stopped at a ridge overlooking the lake. No one else around. Just birds, wind, and the sound of water kissing the edge of stone. I sat down. Let Scout sniff around. Then I whispered something out loud. Not to her. Not to God. Just to myself. "I'm proud of you." It was the first time I'd said it since everything ended. It didn't feel fake. It felt earned. Serena and I kissed. It wasn't planned. Wasn't fireworks. It was gentle. Honest. Real. We were watching some indie movie about grief and second chances. She turned toward me. I met her halfway. It didn't undo the past. But it didn't feel like betrayal to the man I used to be, either. Afterward, we didn't talk much. We didn't need to. Just stayed close. Breathing in a rhythm that felt like trust. Kara sent another email. This one longer. More emotional. She talked about guilt. About how Tyler wasn't who she thought he was. About the baby. How she was trying her best. She didn't ask for anything. But she did end it with this. "Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd told the truth sooner." I closed the laptop. Took a long breath. And whispered, "You'd still have found a way to leave. Just with fewer lies." Then I deleted the message. No anger. No pain. Just space. At the shelter, I met a man named Ruben. Vietnam vet. 80 years old. Hands like leather, smile like a blues song. He asked about Scout. Said she looked like she'd been hurt once. I nodded. Then he asked about me. I told him a little. Just enough. He said, "The world will try to break you with silence, son. The trick is to answer with presence." That one line became my morning mantra. I said it every day before I left the house. Out loud. One evening, Serena asked if I'd ever go back to that version of love. That blind faith. I told her the truth. I don't need blind faith. I just need earned peace. She smiled, touched my hand. I think you've earned it. I think she's right. The past stops echoing when you stop calling into it. You heal not by forgetting who hurt you, but by remembering who you were before they did. It had been 6 months since the basket. 6 months since we are pregnant. Since the inbox full of opinions from strangers. Since the nights on the floor of my apartment, wondering if I was the punchline or the man who finally drew a line. Now, I was just me. Still flawed. Still learning. But not broken. One morning, I caught myself smiling while brushing my teeth. No reason. Just quiet contentment. Not happiness. That's too fleeting. This was something sturdier. Something earned. I studied the man in the mirror. The bags under the eyes were lighter. The jaw more relaxed. The posture different. Not defensive anymore, just grounded. I looked like someone who'd been through something and came out of it with his spine intact. Scout curled up beside me on the couch that night. We watched the rain together through the window. She lifted her head suddenly and growled. I muted the TV. Stood up. There was someone at the door. I opened it slowly. Kara, hair pulled back. Tired. Holding a small box in her hands. Hey, she said. Hey. I didn't know if I should come. You probably shouldn't have. She nodded. Looked down. I'm not here to stir anything. I found this. Thought you might want it. She handed me the box. Inside, an old notebook. Mine. From years ago. Poems. Notes. Sketches of houses I once dreamed of building. I didn't read it, she said quickly. I thought it should be yours. Thanks. She looked at Scout. She's beautiful. She's healing. Kara winced, just slightly. I should go, she said. You should. As she turned to leave, she hesitated. Then asked, Are you okay? I didn't answer right away, because she didn't deserve the real answer. So I just said, I will be. Then closed the door. And this time, I didn't watch her walk away. Later, I read through the notebook. So much of it written in the voice of a man trying to be good enough for someone who was never going to choose him. I tore out 3 pages, burned them in the sink. The rest, I kept, not as a shrine, but as a record. I'd survived that version of me. One weekend, Serena and I went out of town. Just a cabin, a lake, some wine, a lot of silence. We didn't talk about the past. We didn't talk about the future either. We just existed, side by side, peacefully. And when I woke up early one morning, made coffee, and stepped out onto the porch, I realized something. I no longer felt replaced. I felt redeemed. Not by her. Not by love. By myself. I got a call from James later that week. You sound different, he said. How so? Like you're done carrying things that don't belong to you. He was right. I didn't carry betrayal anymore. Didn't carry shame. Or confusion. Or questions. I carried my own name now. And it felt lighter than ever. The wind doesn't come when they regret what they did. It comes when you no longer need them to. That's the quiet victory, walking away whole, even if they never say sorry. A year passed. Not suddenly. Not with fanfare. But gradually. Like how winter becomes spring without asking permission. The pain dulled. The silence filled. The life that had crumbled got rebuilt. Not the same. Not even close. Better. Because this version of me, he wasn't waiting for anyone to pick him. He already had. Scout still slept beside the bed. She'd gotten older. Calmer. Grayer at the edges. We both had. But every morning she still waited by the door, tail wagging, ready for whatever the day held. That kind of loyalty? That's what I'd mistaken in Kara. Confusing routine for devotion, proximity for partnership. But dogs don't lie. And neither do healed men. Serena and I stayed steady. We didn't define things with labels. We didn't rush. But we laughed more than we used to. Held hands without hesitation. Made meals together like we'd done it for years. One night, she said, You know what I like about you? What? You don't make noise when you enter a room. But everyone notices. That might have been the kindest thing anyone's ever said to me. The basket came up once, almost a full year later. We were at a friend's engagement party. Someone brought it up jokingly. Remember that guy who sent the baby basket? Savage. Serena glanced at me, amused. The host leaned in. You ever wonder what happened to that guy? I sipped my drink. Smiled. I think he turned out all right. No one knew. That felt good. Not hidden. Just mine. Kara never reached out again. I never Googled her. Never stalked her socials. She became what she always should have been. A closed chapter. Not a villain. Not a ghost. Just a name in a book I stopped rereading. James came to visit in the fall. We hiked, talked, drank bad coffee from a thermos at the top of a ridge. He asked, if you could go back, would you do anything differently? I thought about it, then shook my head. No, I needed to lose that version of love to understand what love actually is. He nodded, then said, you know what else? What? You didn't lose. You left. There's a difference. And he was right. She lost something good. I found something better. Me. A week before the 1-year anniversary of the breakup, I wrote a final entry in my notebook. You don't heal despite them. You heal to spare yourself the burden of still needing answers. You heal because the version of you that stood through the fire deserves a place in the sun. Then I closed the book, put it on a shelf, and went to make breakfast. Because life doesn't ask if you're ready to move on. It just moves. And this time, I moved with it.